My parents stole my future and handed it to my sister on a silver platter. It was the day I got into Columbia. I still remember how the email header popped up on my cracked phone screen. "Congratulations on your admission." My hands were shaking. My heart felt like it might explode. I'd done it. Ivy League. Full tuition covered. Just needed to pay for housing and meals. But I was ready. I knew we had a college fund. They'd been saving for me since I was born. Or so I thought. I sprinted downstairs, yelling, "Mom! Dad! I got in! Columbia just accepted me!" My mom looked up from kneading dough on the kitchen counter. My dad was icing cupcakes beside her. Both of them just froze. No smiles, no celebration, just an awkward silence that stretched until it cracked something inside me. "That's great, Jason," my mom finally said, wiping flour from her hands. "But we need to talk." My dad wouldn't even look me in the eye. He just muttered, "Let's sit down." I should have known something was wrong when they didn't hug me. Didn't even ask to see the letter. I sat at our tiny kitchen table, the one we'd had since I was in preschool. The one with math equations still scratched into the wood from my late-night SAT sessions. That table had seen every test, every trophy, every tear. My mom folded her arms. "Jason, we're proud of you, but the college fund, it's gone." "What do you mean, gone?" I laughed nervously, waiting for the punchline. "Like, temporarily gone? You moved it?" "No," my dad said, his voice tight. "We used it," I blinked. "Used it for what?" "For Sophia," my mom said, like it was the most normal thing in the world. "To open the bakery." I just stared at them. Sophia, my younger sister, high school dropout. She'd spent most of last year posting baking videos to TikTok and failing online courses. My parents said she had passion. They said school wasn't for everyone, and apparently, they decided her dream was worth $170,000. "You used my college fund to start her bakery?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's a family business," Dad said. "We all benefit. And you're smart, Jason. You'll figure things out. You can take out loans," Mom added, "or go to community college for the first 2 years. Lots of people do." I couldn't speak. I just sat there as every memory of every late night, every tutoring session, every hour I spent studying while Sophia partied or watched Netflix, it all came crashing down. "You've got to be kidding," I whispered. "You said that money was for my education." "And plans change," my mom said. "We didn't expect Sophia to find her calling so early." I looked around the kitchen. The bakery supplies were everywhere. Cupcake molds, frosting machines, boxes labeled Sophia's Sweets. They'd already been preparing for months behind my back. "You knew I was applying to Ivy Leagues," I said. "You knew I was working toward this." "You'll still be successful," my dad said, like I was just being dramatic. "This is what's best for the family." I stood up. This is what's best for Sophia. Mom's eyes narrowed. "Don't be bitter, Jason. She's your sister." And that was it. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just walked back to my room and shut the door. On the outside, I looked calm. On the inside, something cracked so deep I could feel the pieces slipping. That night, I didn't sleep. I packed my laptop, my school documents, the $210 I'd hidden in a shoebox, the emergency credit card I was never supposed to use, and a change of clothes. At 3 a.m., I climbed out the window, just like I used to do as a kid when I snuck out to study at the 24-hour library downtown. Only this time, I wasn't coming back. And just before I turned the corner out of sight, I looked back at the house one last time. Just in time to see the bakery lights flick on and my sister walk in, yawning, wearing a t-shirt that said CEO in training. That was the moment I made a promise. They bet everything on Sophia. Now I was going to bet everything on myself, but they had no idea who they'd just turned their backs on. The night air felt heavier than usual as I walked away from the house I used to call home. No text, no note, just the quiet click of the front gate behind me and the sound of my own footsteps on cracked Queens pavement. I didn't cry. Not yet. I took the N train into Manhattan, riding past flickering lights and half-asleep commuters until I reached Chinatown. There was only one place I could think of, Mr. Tran's Po Shop. I'd helped his son with math homework the year before. Mr. Tran liked me, said I had a brain made of gold and a face made for Wall Street. At 5:30 a.m., he found me sitting outside his shop, backpack in my lap, eyes stinging from staying awake all night. He didn't ask questions, just unlocked the door and said, "You hungry?" That bowl of pho saved me, not just because I hadn't eaten in 14 hours, but because it reminded me that some people see you for who you are, not who they want you to be. He offered me a small job, bussing tables, helping his son with school again, sleeping on a cot in the back room when needed. I said yes before he even finished asking. And just like that, I had a new routine. Scrubbing floors from open to close, then tutoring math and physics to local kids in the evenings. Every dollar I made, I saved. Every break I had, I studied. By week 3, something changed. One of the customers overheard me explaining AP calculus to Mr. Tran's son, a real estate agent with a spoiled teenage daughter. She asked if I could help her pass algebra, offered me $50 an hour. Cash. From there, it snowballed. More parents started asking, "You got my kid into advanced placement, I'll pay double." He raised my son's SAT score by 200 points in 3 weeks. I stopped wearing my Po Shop apron and started printing business cards on library printers. Jahan, Ivy Level tutoring, math, science, SAT, guaranteed results. I never used my real last name again. Lee was tied to a family that erased me. Han was the name I'd use to rebuild myself from nothing. By month 2, I was booked solid. I rented a room above a laundromat. Shared bathroom, no window, but it was mine. I slept on a futon, kept my clothes in boxes, and worked 16-hour days. And every time I walked past a college campus, I felt it. The ache. The reminder that I should have been there too. In lecture halls, in dorms, with a student ID instead of a punch clock. Then one Saturday afternoon, as I was helping a student write her Columbia admissions essay, I got a notification on Instagram. Sophia Sweets NYC tagged you in a post. I froze. It was a picture of her holding up a huge check with my parents on either side, grinning ear to ear. First profitable month. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for believing in my dream bakery. Couldn't have done it without you. I clicked through their profile. New signage, new branding. Sophia's Sweets, gourmet cupcakes and custom cakes. Their storefront had been renovated. New tiles, new counter. They'd even hired 2 assistants. My college fund had become her entire brand. And in every photo, she looked radiant, confident, empowered. Meanwhile, I was eating discount ramen in a room that smelled like bleach and wet socks. That was the moment it stopped being about surviving. I wanted more. Not just to make it. I wanted to build something. Something bigger than that bakery. Bigger than the family that gave up on me. I wanted to rise so far above them that they'd have no choice but to look up and wonder how they ever underestimated me. I stayed up that night drafting a plan. Tutoring had brought in steady cash, but it wasn't scalable. What if I trained others? Other smart students who couldn't afford school but had the skills to teach. What if I built a team? By dawn, I had a name. Han Ivy Prep. A vision. A network. A new beginning. But just as I was finalizing my first online ad, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Your mom just had a panic attack. Come home. We need to talk." Dad. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Was it real? Was she okay? Or just another manipulation? Either way, I knew one thing. I wasn't going back. But maybe. It was time they saw exactly what they threw away. By month 6, Han Ivy Prep wasn't just surviving, it was exploding. I had a roster of 20 tutors, each one a high-achieving student who had deferred their Ivy League admission or dropped out because they couldn't afford it. I trained them myself. Gave them scripts, strategies, lesson plans. In return, They got 70% of the earnings, and I handled all the logistics. We started with Zoom calls, then small office rentals, then multiple locations in Queens, Brooklyn, and Jersey. My name was on nothing, but my influence? It was everywhere. I walked into private school fundraisers where parents whispered, "That's the guy who got Ethan into Yale." I sat in coffee shops and watched clients pass my flyers around like golden tickets. And at night, while the world slept, I researched, I learned, I listened. That's how I found out about the bakery. My parents were in trouble. The cupcake boom had faded. Sophia's social media followers dropped. One viral bad review. Someone claimed the cakes were overpriced Pinterest clones, and foot traffic plummeted. Word was, they were behind on rent. Suppliers weren't getting paid. Their shiny empire was crumbling. I didn't feel sorry, not even for a second. Because while they were spending thousands on pastel signage and fondant roses, I was building something real, something scalable, profitable, untouchable. And then, I found the building. A 5-story corner property in Flushing with a bakery on the ground floor and empty commercial units above. The bakery's lease? Month to month. Rent? Criminally undervalued. Owner? Retired. Selling due to health issues. I didn't hesitate. I bought it under the name of a real estate LLC one of my clients had helped me form. Silent ownership. No direct connection. Just a 23-year-old in a gray hoodie, sipping iced coffee, signing a deal that would change everything. A week later, my property manager sent the bakery an official letter. Rent increase, 60-day deadline. I knew what would happen. My parents would panic. Sophia would throw a fit. They'd call the number listed on the notice, ask to negotiate, beg for mercy. What I didn't expect was for them to walk into my office. It was a Tuesday. I'd just finished a session with a student from a prestigious prep school when my receptionist buzzed me. "Jay, there's a Mr. and Mrs. Lee here to discuss a business matter." I froze. I hadn't heard that name, my real name, in over a year. "Send them in," I said, voice steady. Heart racing. They walked in like they owned the place. My father in a wrinkled dress shirt. My mother clutching a manila folder and a frown. They didn't recognize me at first. Too clean-cut. Too confident. Too successful. "I'm Jason," I said calmly. "Jason Hahn." They blinked. Then my mother's jaw dropped. "Jason?" she whispered. "Oh my God, it's you?" I didn't smile, didn't nod, just gestured to the seats across from my desk. "You said you wanted to discuss a business matter. Let's talk." They stammered for a bit. Something about the rent being unfair, about the bakery being a family legacy, about how this increase would destroy them. "We're trying to renegotiate," my dad said, his voice lower now. "Whoever owns that building is trying to squeeze us out." I leaned back in my chair. "And you think that's me?" My mom looked at me, eyes wide. "Is it?" I tapped the desk. "Let's focus on facts. You took my college fund, built a business around someone who dropped out of high school. You told me to take out loans, be practical, and now you're asking for help?" "It wasn't personal," my dad said. "We thought you'd understand. You were always the strong one." I stood up. Number I was always the disposable one. Then I opened the manila folder in her hands. She gasped. Inside was a copy of the property deed, signed, sealed, under my name, J. Han, Managing Director. They looked like someone had punched the air out of their lungs. You own the building?" my father stuttered. "That's right," I said. "And in 59 days, your bakery needs to be gone." My mother started to cry. "Please, Jason, we didn't know. We were trying our best." I looked at her, then at the tears in her eyes. And I said one word. "Goodbye." But just as they reached the door, Sophia burst in. She looked at me like she'd seen a ghost. And then she said something that made my blood run cold. "You think this is revenge? You have no idea what I've done. Comment the number 2 if you want to see how Clara will pay for this." I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was torn. Not because I had second thoughts. But because for the first time in my life, I was in control. And they knew it. Sophia's words kept ringing in my ears. You think this is revenge? You have no idea what I've done. At first, I thought she was bluffing. A last-ditch attempt to guilt me, rattle me, stop the rent hike from going through. But the way she said it, calm, cold, certain, it stuck with me. So I started digging. The next morning, I called one of my longtime clients, a lawyer named Derek, who specialized in small business fraud. We went through public records, tax filings, business licenses, anything connected to Sophia's sweets. And that's when things started unraveling. The business wasn't just failing. It had been bleeding money for almost a year. Vendors hadn't been paid. Rent was behind. Payroll taxes were skipped. There were signs of check kiting, moving money between fake accounts to delay payments. And worse, some of the business credit lines were co-signed by my father, using our grandparents' house as collateral. I felt sick. My parents didn't just steal my college fund. They risked losing everything. And Sophia? She wasn't just incompetent. She was running a bakery-shaped con. By that evening, I had a full report printed and bound. I scheduled a meeting with my property manager, my lawyer, and a representative from the city's business regulation office. It was time to push forward. Step 1, eviction notice, no negotiation. Step 2, file a complaint with the IRS for unreported income. Step 3, expose the fraudulent loan paperwork and protect my grandparents before it was too late. I thought that would be enough. But then the real twist came. I was sitting in my office, going over final paperwork, when my assistant knocked gently. "There's someone here asking to see you," she said. "He says it's urgent." It was Mr. Kim, our old neighbor, family friend, ran a small electronics store across from the bakery for 20 years. Grew up with my dad. I hadn't seen him since I left home. He stepped in slowly, hat in hand, eyes down. "Jason," he said softly, "I didn't know where else to go." "What's wrong?" He looked like he'd aged a decade. "Sophia came to me last month," he said. "Said the bakery was expanding. She wanted to borrow $30,000. Said your parents were behind it. Said you were backing her too." I froze. "What?" "I trusted her," he said. "We all did. She showed us fake paperwork, said she had investors lined up, that you were one of them." My stomach dropped. "She got 5 of us," he added. "All Korean business owners on that block. She used your name, Jason. Said you were helping her turn the bakery into a franchise." I couldn't speak. "Now we're behind on our own bills," he said, voice shaking. "My store's barely staying open. My wife, she thinks I gave Sophia our retirement money." He pulled something from his pocket. A flyer. Han Ivy Prep X. Sophia's Sweets. Community Scholarship Launch Event. Sponsored by Jason Han. My logo, my name, forged. I stared at it, heart pounding. She hadn't just taken my college fund. She'd taken my name, my brand, my credibility. And she used it to scam the only people who had ever supported us. I stood up slowly. "That's it," I said. "She wanted war. She's getting it." Because now it wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. And I was going to burn down everything she'd built, brick by brick. The night before it all came crashing down, I stood on the rooftop of the building I now owned. The bakery lights below were still on, flickering like a dying lie. Inside, Sophia was probably printing fake invoices or forging another investor letter. My parents were likely pacing in panic, trying to figure out how to cover their tracks one more time. But the truth had already caught up with them. I'd filed the IRS complaint, the loan fraud reports. I'd handed everything, emails, doctored flyers, fake receipts, to my lawyer. And most importantly, I'd spoken to the people Sophia scammed. Mr. Kim, Mrs. An, the Lees from the tailor shop. 5 small business owners who had trusted my family name. They all agreed to join me at a community investment meeting at the bakery the next day. But what they didn't know was that Sophia was walking into her own reckoning. At noon, I arrived at the bakery in a tailored black suit. Not flashy, just sharp, clean, intentional. The kind of outfit that said, I'm not the quiet math kid anymore. The place was packed. My parents were behind the counter, trying to stay composed. Sophia stood in the center, fake smile plastered on her face, passing around samples of cupcakes none of us would ever taste. She didn't notice me until I cleared my throat. "Sorry I'm late," I said loudly. Every head turned. Sophia's face went pale. Before she could say a word, I pulled a thick folder from my bag and dropped it on the nearest table. Inside were the forged flyers, the fake contracts, the complaint forms, the loan documents, every lie she'd told. "You all came here because you believed in this business," I said, voice steady. "You trusted this family. You trusted me, because she used my name." Mr. Kim looked at Sophia. "Is this true?" She stuttered. I was just trying to save the bakery. I didn't mean—" "You didn't mean to lie?" I cut in. "You didn't mean to forge my signature? You didn't mean to take retirement savings from people who treated us like family?" Tears welled up in her eyes. My parents stood frozen, not saying a word. One by one, the victims spoke. "You said Jason was expanding into food. You showed me an email chain with his name on it. You said I'd triple my investment in 6 months. Each voice added weight to the room until it became unbearable. Then the door opened. 2 officers stepped inside. "Is Sophia Lee here?" My heart pounded. "This is a civil investigation," one officer said. "We have questions regarding multiple counts of small business fraud and identity misrepresentation." My parents finally snapped out of their silence. "This is a misunderstanding," my mother cried. "We can fix this." But Sophia had already dropped the tray. Frosting smeared across the tile like a bad dream. "I didn't think you'd find out," she whispered. I looked her in the eye. "You thought I'd disappear, like I did 10 years ago. But this time, I'm not leaving." They escorted her out in handcuffs. The bakery was silent. My father turned to me, his voice trembling. "What happens now?" I looked around the room. The faces that once knew me as the shy, obedient boy who used to mop floors and carry books. "I'm reopening this space," I said. "Not as a bakery, as a free community learning center. For kids who were told they didn't matter. For students like me." My mother stepped forward, lips quivering. "Jason, please, we're still your family." I paused, letting that word hang in the air. Number family doesn't gamble your future away. Family doesn't silence you and pretend it's love. I turned to leave. But just before walking out the door, I looked back and said, "You invested in her lies. Now you'll live with the truth." And I meant every word. Because I didn't destroy their lives. They did that themselves. All I did was make sure they couldn't lie their way out of it again. Comment the number 6 if you wanted to see Sophia's full punishment, and subscribe if you love real revenge stories like this one. More are coming.